All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the Sports Card Therapist and Sports Card Lessons. I'm Rob, your Sports Card Therapist. I have Ken with me from Sports Card Lessons. If you're watching on YouTube, you will see his Chiefs Stadium. It's Arrowhead Stadium in the background. It looks like he's up in the nosebleeds, like taking a selfie. Ken, how you doing, my man?
I am doing well, and you know really what this is all about. I acquired tickets last night for the Patriots Chiefs game. It's going to be in Foxborough, but I really didn't want to put the Foxborough Stadium up here, so I'm putting the Chiefs up here.
No, let's go, man. That's awesome. And I tell you what, so again, this is another collab episode between therapists and lessons. Love these collab episodes. Love being able to sit down, chop it up with you, talk. We were just gonna basically do a normal recording and then post it afterward. And right before we started recording, I said to Ken, I said, "Hey, do you want to go live? Like, I feel like we don't go live anymore on YouTube." And I think, our trajectory as far as content has been very similar, whereas we've both really built the foundation for like our content through podcasts. So when it comes to YouTube, when it comes to video, I'll be the first to admit I really have not taken much time. I really don't pay any attention to my YouTube channel. As terrible as that sounds, that doesn't mean that I don't pay attention to what people, what the people that consume this content think or say or do. But like, for me, podcast is everything. So I think that's why on my end, there's so much inconsistency with YouTube. And I don't know about you. I mean, I don't think you've ever gone live without me being a part of it, right? Like you just don't go live.
No, I don't go live, and I always would love to build my YouTube channel, but there's not that a lot I do on here, but talk to the camera. Like I'm sitting here doing a
Same.
podcast version, talking to the camera. So, and most people I know, they turn it on, they will put it on the YouTube, right, and then they listen to it because I mean I wouldn't want to watch me for half an hour or 45 minutes if I wasn't showing you anything, right? So, that's really kind of what it comes down to.
No, definitely. And because I consume so much of my content through podcasts, there's people that feel the equal and exact same way about YouTube. They're like, I don't listen to podcasts. I'm not a podcast person. I put on YouTube. And even people that don't sit there and watch the YouTube videos per se, they still will put on YouTube in the car,
Yeah.
right? They'll put on YouTube and they'll put their phone down,
Mm.
or they'll have their GPS or Waze going through the phone. And so it's not like they're watching the video while driving, but they still listen to YouTube. So
Yeah.
there's I think there's and the audience is just bigger on YouTube as well. But
Mhm.
for me, I'm just so loyal to the podcast, the listener base. But I would like to see myself paying more attention to YouTube because I have, we both have a lot of friends in the YouTube space, Sports Card Dad being one of them, just off the top of my head, but and cousins are always doing their Wednesday night lives and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what does it do? It creates great interaction, so that's what's, probably the best part about YouTube and what we do is we're not just when we're doing this now, we're talking to each other, but we've got a lot of comments coming in on the screen too. So we can, interact, with the people who are out there watching as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have some comments. Jake and on his b-ball cards, what is up? He says, "What's up, fellas?" Mookie Chilson says, "I'm just glad Ken escaped the headless horseman. I love the background, Ken." So the headless horseman, is that like the Chiefs mascot?
No, no, no. That was the one I was doing from,
Oh, that was your back.
Tarrytown there,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sleepy
yeah,
Hollow. Yeah,
yeah.
the Sleepy Hollow, and now we're here at the stadium. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And listen, I know both of us, we really like our content to be, evergreen, right? So we're not just talking about like hobby news, and shout out to the people that cover the hobby news because I love consuming that content personally.
Mhm.
But um but let's talk about Halloween for a sec, man. I tell you, having kids, I've fallen in love with the holiday of Halloween again, and that was your background, and I love that background. So when you and I did a couple collab episodes, I love looking at that Halloween background.
Yeah. I, probably one of my favorite, and it's really not a holiday, right? But one of my favorite holidays of the year. It always has been. Love Halloween. Loved it with my, when I was a kid, loved it with my own kids. Like, I had stories from when I was a kid. My kids have stories. They talk about, me out there pushing them like, no, we still got 3 more neighborhoods to go. There's no stop now, like that type of thing. And this is my first year in this new neighborhood here that it's not gonna be any kids coming around, I don't think, to in where I live now. So this is gonna be my first year not handing out Halloween. I might have to go to your house, Rob. Will you take your daughter out, and I'll cover the front door and hand the candy out 'cause, I gotta do something on Halloween.
That'd be awesome, man. Yeah. I tell you what, so and we'll definitely get the cards. Please, guys, don't tune out. We will definitely get to the card talk. But I have been so every night to go to sleep, I have to put on a movie, and it's usually the same movie on repeat. And my wife wants to like kill me. So every night I have to put on like the same movie. And as soon as I fall asleep, she'll change it and put on the Food Network or something. But for the last year, I've put on uh, oh my God, why am I drawing such a blank? The Quentin Tarantino movie that's on Netflix all the time, The Hateful Eight. So I put on The Hateful Eight like clockwork. I listen to the first 10 minutes of it, fall asleep. Now, what my movie has been for the last like 6 weeks is Hubie Halloween, the Adam Sandler movie. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Oh man. Such an incredible movie, man. You got to watch it. It's that typical Sandler humor, that it's like I don't understand how some people can watch it and not get such a kick out of it.
Well, it's a lot of that Saturday Night Live, and I know exactly what you're saying. It's that dry humor, and if you like it, I mean, it's hysterical. And all his movies, I love all his movies, and I could sit and watch them, and then other people come in the room and they'd be like, "Oh, I don't get it. This movie's so dumb," and I'm like, "No, it's not. I mean, just listen. I mean, you really have to get that dry humor in order to really enjoy Adam Sandler in those movies." Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know. Is it considered dry humor? When I think of dry humor, I think of uh what's the really tall guy's name from Wedding Crashers? That's who I think of when I think of dry humor, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Like when I think of Adam Sandler, I think of like juvenile humor.
Yeah, like 50 First Dates, like
Yeah,
just movies I mean, I love that. I just love that little, all the
yeah.
little and you know what? If I was this is one of those things, and I'll tell you, you watch something and it's so funny, and then you go wanna go and repeat it to somebody, right? And you start repeating it, and they're looking at you like, What are you doing?" And it's not funny at all. And you realize you catch yourself, you're saying it, and you're not funny either. So it takes a particular person to be able to pull it off and really make it funny. So
This is the beauty of going live. I could not come up with the name, and Jake 90s B-ball cards said Vince
Vince
Vaughn. That's who it is, Vince Vaughn. So when I think of like dry, and I could be wrong, I don't know if what the definition of dry humor is, but when I think of it, I think of Vince Vaughn. But I digress. Yes. So it sounds like you and I once again have a ton in common, man. And I'm gonna miss you on November 11th, Saturday. You're actually gonna be down in the Carolinas visiting your daughter, but I'm gonna be set up at the Laz show. This is the first time I've set up. I think this is the first time I've set up since the National. So I'm going to be at the Laz show in Secaucus, New Jersey. And you know who I'm setting up with?
I do know.
Cousins Collectibles, baby. I'm setting up with Oz, the People's Mailman, and I'm setting up with the architect, Tony. I cannot wait to set up with them. It's going to be a great freaking time. Tony came up last year at one point and set up with you and I in New Jersey. And now that you're not going to be there, he's hitting his tag team partner, hanging off the turnbuckle, tagged him in. Oz is coming in.
Yeah, yeah. And I will be away. I will be in North Carolina. I will be seeing the Eagles that weekend. And there's also a show in North Carolina that I'm going to be attending on Saturday down there. So that same Saturday you're up there, I'm going to be at a show down there. I'm gonna miss the tag team. I'm gonna miss tapping everybody in and out. But I know you guys are going to hold it down. And it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. And when you say you're going to see the Eagles, you're going to be seeing the band, not the Philadelphia Eagles, because
Yes, yes.
I know you, and neither of us would pay $1 to see the Philadelphia Eagles live. So
Unless
we
they
have
were
more.
playing the Chiefs.
Yes, absolutely. So we have Ziggy in the chat. What is up, Ziggy? He says, really enjoy the live tonight, and I applaud your focus on podcasts. Thank you very much for that, Ziggy. Jake says, I wish I could make it down to see that trio. I appreciate that. Um, Jake says, we need to see the Cousins crew at the Springfield show soon. I completely agree. And then we have Orlando in the House of Collector's Dreams says, awesome. You guys will be together. I'll be at the West Palm Beach show on 11/11. So perfect. So yeah, let's jump into it, man. So I know that with this hobby is like it feels like it's like the ocean. Like I just feel like everything is constantly moving. Everything's always in motion. Things get filtered out and sometimes the junk like I feel like the ocean has an incredible way of right just kind of like moving around and somehow getting all the junk to eventually go in one spot. But junk is continuously getting dumped into the hobby, whether if it's content, whether if it's people, whether if it's cards that are terrible, whether if it's reprints of one of ones that are coming out. Shout out to Dan the Card Man for really being all over that with some of these super fractors, like two of them popping up, three of them popping up when it's supposed to be one of one. And what's the name of that bit? What do they call that big garbage patch in the middle of the ocean that's the size of Texas?
I don't know, but I'm sure Jake is going to pop it right up on the screen any moment.
Absolutely. So there's this huge garbage patch, and sometimes I feel like that can be the hobby, but I digress. So with everything that's moving, with everything that's constantly going on, where are you at right now? What are you collecting? Are you still focused on women's soccer? Because I know that women's soccer was hot last year because of the World Cup and everything like that, right? And it's cooled down big time now. And that's when you were really like getting fired up about women's soccer. So in my head, I was like, is this like, is he falling in love with it, but not realizing he'll probably fall out of love with it when the hype dies down? Or are you still like riding that wave and probably getting cards at incredible prices now?
Yeah, I'm riding that wave. I'm way up on top right now. I'm cards that were just, I'm collecting Trinity Rodman mostly. I have other players, I keep picking up, US players like Sophia Smith, Alyssa Thompson, but mostly, Trinity Rodman and cards that were just out of my reach, that I just there's no way, 6, 8 months ago, a year ago, I could afford. Now all of a sudden are coming up. People I'm messaging, all of a sudden they're re-messaging me back saying, hey, are you interested in this card? I mean, they were holding these cards and they see what the market's doing and they're getting scared. They're getting scared that this card that they thought was worth this much money and now the price is going down. Why am I excited? I mean, I'm picking up cards that there's less than 25 of these or less than 30, and they're rookie cards. And these are cards that don't come up for sale often at all. And I'm able to get those. That's just completely exciting to me.
So let me ask you something and do not lie. When was the last time you watched a female soccer game professional?
2 weeks ago. See, well, they're just at the end of the season now. But yeah,
So you're not only collecting the cards, but
I'm actually watching the games Saturday night. I got the barbecue going. I got the TV out there because they all play Saturday night. I have the TV out there. I'm watching the games. Oh yeah. No, I mean,
wow.
I gotta. If I'm doing this, I gotta be in this, right?
Listen, I agree. I completely agree. But I did not know you were at that level of consuming women's soccer games.
Yeah.
On top
Yep.
of it.
Yep, absolutely. And now, I mean, we had World Cup last summer, and now we're going to have the Olympics this summer. So even though like the hype had all dropped down, right? There's a lot of product that's just being released right now from last year's World Cup, and now we're going to have the Olympics coming up, this summer. And I mean, I think the hype is going to go right back up again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So Ziggy asks a question in this chat right here, and he says, do you think this was the first year of multiple one of ones, or maybe the first year it was so bad and public? Like, why do we trust Hops? No one audits the cards. So I got to be honest, man. I'm not sure, but I can't imagine this is the first year that there's been mistakes with cards and that quality control's going down. Now, I think we're probably seeing a lot of corners being cut. I mean, I'm seeing corners being cut everywhere, right? I had an issue with my car in the car dealership over the last 2 months that I've told you about, Ken. And it's like, and it really just feels like they're really cutting corners. It feels like inflation has continued to be on the rise. Wages have not caught up with any of that, and there was this false, like, kind of injection of money into the economy because of stimulus checks and whatnot, right? So certain companies, especially like, sports card companies, got a huge injection of money, and they started hiring like crazy. And over the last 18 months now, we've seen a massive decline just in prices and people grading cards, like all this stuff, right? So I think that there's definitely corners being cut because a lot of layoffs probably have continued to happen across the board. But at the same time, I don't think this is probably the first year. I think that now that there's more hobby watchdogs, if that's what you call them. Some people like being called that, some people don't. But when you have guys that are really kind of digging into some of these companies and holding them accountable, then I think, yeah, I think that that is a, can't imagine it's the first time it's happened.
Do you think though, and this is kind of where my mind goes with this. So I talked about getting this Trinity Rodman. It was a relic. Her first year, the first relic is player worn, shorts that they cut up and they put in these cards, right? So their cards were numbered to 10 and then numbered to 100. So I purchased one that was numbered to 100, and it was a PSA 10. And the guy I got it from, I said, wow, this is unbelievable that this card got a 10. And he said, this card showed up. I got it in a break. They got sent to me. It showed up. It was all banged up. I contacted Parkside. They said, send it back. Within 2 weeks, the card showed up, same number to 100. And it looked so great. He's like, I got to send this to PSA. And it came back a 10, right? So when I
So
hear
PSA duplicated, or I mean, Tops or
Parkside,
Panini duplicated the same exact
so
card that they had already printed.
So when I ask people this question, a lot of people say to me that PSA makes duplicates of a lot of these cards, and they
Not
just,
PSA, Panini.
no, I'm saying not PSA, no, like
Yeah, yeah, Panini. I
Panini,
know. I
Panini,
messed up first. That probably
yeah, yeah,
triggered you to mess
like
up. Sorry about that.
Panini, any of these companies, they make duplicates of these cards. So what's from stopping an employee from being like, wow, I could grab a Mahomes 101 out of the locker over there, or I could put it on the printing thing and put it out 101 and then walk out the front door with it, put it in my backpack. Like these are the things I think. Like I can't imagine in today's day and age when everything's computerized that you put a print run in there and you computerize it and say you're going to make a 101, a one of, up to 5, up to 10, up to 25, up to 99, whatever you're doing, and it prints all those cards out. At what point do you say, okay, let's print out a second batch and we're going to put them in a locker, so if any of these show up damaged, we can easily just replace it or send it back, or whatever they do. I really don't know what their procedures are, but don't, if you've got an employee there that has the opportunity to grab, now here I am, I'm pointing out, bad employees, but what I'm saying is, isn't it possible that somebody just walked out the door with a couple 101s, and then just went to a local show, or sold the card? And
I I hear what you're saying. I have to push back on the fact that they preemptively double print everything. I cannot imagine card companies do that. Now, because everything is digital and computerized, and you can keep 1 billion images on a single external hard drive or a single chip, right? I think that every single image is saved. Therefore, I think that probably a certain few people in a certain one or maybe two departments at Tops or at Panini or at Fanatics has access to being able to reprint these specific numbered cards. And I think even that alone is very dangerous. Even that alone is very dangerous. I think that once a card is printed, there should be no way to replace it. That's my opinion. I think that that is way too risky. I think
It's
that
quality.
if everything was double printed, we would have known this a long time ago because duplicates would be all over eBay. That's all, we'd be flooded with duplicates. Now, I'm not saying that more and more duplicates aren't popping up, because it does feel like there are, but it seems like it's kind of a small problem and not a huge problem. Don't get me wrong, if I owned the Superfractor one of one,
It's a
I would say
problem.
it's a huge problem if another one popped up. Could you imagine paying like 100K or 50K or even 10K for a one of one Superfractor, and then it's like, oops,
Yeah,
come to
we got
find out
another
someone
one.
in California or someone in Beijing
Yeah.
has
But
the
I've
same
sat
card.
through, I'm telling you, I've sat through a lot of breaks, right? And when somebody, the breaker puts the card up and says, "Oh, this has got a dinged corner, a terrible print line," I'm going to send you the box with that card, and you can contact Panini and get a replacement. I mean, I hear this all the time.
And I
So
don't doubt that there's a department that can reprint that, but I can't imagine they're reprinting duplicates of everything. I don't
Mm,
think there's just storage units full of reprints. No
yeah.
way.
So when I go out to the National and I trade in and they give me these black boxes and these white boxes that these cards are stamped and saying, black box one of one on the back, right? So these cards were in a set in 2017 or 2018 or 2019 or 2020. I mean, these cards were printed out. That you like, and I've gotten a couple of them where I've gone online and I've looked at that card and I've seen other ones, but on the back of mine it's stamped black box one of one, where you know I mean, they've got to be reprinting something for these cards to be available and to come out.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now when they're printing 2024 sets, I think there's certain sets that they are not releasing to the public because they know in 2028 and 2029 they're going to be handing these very few sets out, these limited sets, as like, oops, sorry, because we know we screwed up type thing. I don't know. I mean, I think the more I see, the more I realize like there's just a lot of cards out there.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah.
just a lot of cards out there. So even when you get something like a nice Patrick Mahomes autograph, there's so many of them out there.
Yeah.
And Mahomes isn't someone that signs a ton like Kevin Durant,
Tell
but
me about it. I'm still waiting for him to show up at Panini to sign my card.
yeah, no, I can't imagine. But yeah, I think it's the more we see, the more we realize. And all you have to do is go to a place like the National or go to the Dallas show or Burbank, and you just walk the aisles and you see how much is like really, really there. And you can show up with just an insane case of cards if you're a dealer. And there's really nothing that like helps you stand out amongst the sea of other dealers. Like what do you do? Because I know a couple years ago I was setting up a ton, but then I started really moving into cards that I didn't want to move anymore. I started falling in love with the cards I was getting. And it's like it's like in you ever see Heat with Robert De Niro and Pacino? So
Yeah.
like so De Niro lives by this like thing that's like never get too close to anyone or anything that you won't walk out on in 30 seconds if you feel the heat coming for you around the corner. I
Mm.
think I nailed that line too. I think that's exactly how he says it. So, for me, I've gotten too close. I can't walk out. If the heat comes, I can't walk out now because I love these cards that I'm getting. I'm not looking at them as just
Yeah.
objects that I feel no ties to or no emotions to. And I
Sounds
know you do
sounds like
too.
sounds like you become a collector. Sheesh.
Well, yeah, but the thing is too, it's like, and then I hear people say, "Oh man, a lot of dealers, a lot of flippers turned collectors over the last 2 years when the market went south." And I'm like, for me, that has nothing to do with it. But so I digress. Let me go back to my point. What do you do? Because now you've taken over for me. I was the one that was doing all the setting up. And then all of a sudden, you and I were doing all the setting up together. And slowly I started to phase out. And now you're still doing it. What do you do to make sure you stand out amongst the other sea of dealers at a show, because you're not doing small shows anymore. You're not doing shows of like 30 tables, 30 dealers. You and I mean, I know you will, but for the most part, you won't do a show that's anything less than like 200 tables. So, what are you doing to stand out?
Yeah, I just like to do the bigger shows, and it's more because I like to see all the people that I know are going to be there. The smaller shows, I could go walk a smaller show and not have to set up and be there all day, right? I like to go to the bigger shows. I like to set up at those shows. It's a I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't set up since August, right? Here it is October. November is I'm going to be setting up for the first time. So it's been a few months and I can't really honestly answer that question because I don't know what the landscape is going to look like when I get there in November. I know I'm showing up with hockey. This is what my plan was. I made a plan. I stuck to it. I all summer long, all the way up to, the end of August, I was buying hockey cards. So I'm sticking with my plan. I'm going to go out there. I may not stand out. Maybe I will. Maybe I've purchased these cards at such a good price that I'll be able to sell them and make a profit. Maybe the market has come down so much that I may not. I don't know. I don't know what the landscape is going to look like when I hit that show in
Are you still bringing your director's chair to sit in at shows?
November. When I have the room, I know which ones I can and can't set it up at. Some of them,
Because if you're bringing your director's chair, you'll stand out.
yeah.
You're perched like 4 feet above your neighbors. Like you'll stand out.
I'm like the referee at the tennis match. But yeah, I mean, cousins here, they're saying you can walk most shows in a few minutes, and that's right. Like I go to we go to these small shows in Connecticut. We go, and when we get off, I'm going to talk to you about going to one here in Connecticut on Saturday, right? But these shows, we know we can plan ahead. We know it's not going to take us. It's not going to be an all day event. We can go in and go through that show, and we know pretty much right away.
Hold on, what show are you saying we're going to talk about when we get off?
I think the I want to say Stratford. Is it not Stratford?
Where'd you the Trumbull show?
Trumbull.
Oh, Trumbull's this weekend?
Trumbull and Milford are this weekend. Yeah.
You know what? Trumbull, Connecticut, and I did a whole episode on like, man, this is like participation is required part 6, because when I walked into the Trumbull show, I said, you know what? I'm going to be in the area. Like we're literally going to be a town away. You know what? I would like to go to a show. Let me just go walk it real quick. And I was like, maybe I'll bring my stuff. There's not going to be anything there. I've gone there a few times before. There's nothing there that ever caught my eye. Screw it. I'll bring my stuff. Brought my stuff. Ended up walking out with a Babe Ruth Type 1 photo, and that I was able to trade partially into. And without bringing my inventory with me to sweeten the deal for him to take some of my stuff that I was, okay with moving, I probably wouldn't have purchased the Type 1 photo, but since he was willing to take my stuff. Point being, you never know what's going to happen when you walk into a show. So you're saying you want to maybe go Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I could probably pull that off. It's only like a 25 minute ride from my house, and it's such a small show. We could be there an hour and feel like, okay, it's time to go.
Yep. But that's the point. I mean, we could go in and get that all done. It doesn't. Here's the thing. For me, it doesn't make sense for me to go set up there and spend a whole day, spend 4 or 5, 6 hours set up there, because I really don't have a lot of inventory that I want to put out, and I would rather go walk and do some buying and talk to people, shake some hands, kiss some babies, that type of thing. Just get out there and see the people, see the fans.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so this Saturday possibly we're going to go to the Trumbull, Connecticut show. Then next Friday, you and I are going to take the day off and go to the Shriner show in Massachusetts.
Yes.
That's going to be a good time. So listen, I feel like it's 2021 again with you and I just like driving the show.
Road dogs
every single week, just driving, man. I tell you, man, like it's crazy because I feel like over the last few years, because of cards, I've gotten to know you better than I feel like I know most people in my life now. You know what I mean? It's like, It's almost like, I think of like the top 75 NBA all-time list, right? Like it's really hard to crack that top 20. Like when you're talking like top 20, top 10 especially, like those positions are usually cemented. Like Giannis barely crept into the top 20 when they did the listing. I think he's like 18 or 19, and chances are he will not move up anymore. Point being, like over the course of my life, when I'm like, man, I've met a lot of people, I know a lot of people, kind of thing. Like you've because of those car rides and because of cards, like you've kind of crept up that list. Like, man, I know Ken better than I know a lot of my family, I feel like.
I feel the same way. Like, so much about, and especially taking a car ride. And this is funny you should mention this because I worked with a girl who said, she was engaged and she went cross country from East Coast to West Coast, drove out to California, and then drove back to somebody and then broke the engagement off when they came back. And she met somebody else. And 2 years later, she did the same thing. They drove East Coast to California and all the way back. And then they got married 6 months later. And she said, I knew after spending all that time with this one person in this car that whether I could marry them or not. And they've been married 30 something years and happily married. So
Well,
it really says a lot about, I mean, we're not getting married,
yeah, I hate to break it to you, Ken,
but
but I'm not getting
but
down
it
on
just
one
goes to
knee
show
anytime soon.
like how much you get to know somebody when you're in such a close space for a long distance, right?
Yeah. And I can remember, by the end of, probably 2022, it was almost like we were starting to finish our own
Each other's
sentences.
sentences.
Yeah. So shout out to Tony for throwing us the alley oop on that one for sure. So yeah, man, I think, right now where I'm at with everything I'm collecting overall, um, I'm vintage is my one. Vintage is definitely it. I mean, when I look at all cards and I take monetary value out of everything, right? Like I'm sitting here right now and I'm looking at. Let me see. I'll take two comparable cards. I'm looking at my LeBron Ultimate Collection rookie auto, which monetarily is one of my biggest cards. But then I'm looking at the George Mikan rookie that I have, and I just feel so much more for the George Mikan. I feel so much more for that. I feel so much more in my heart of hearts for my Willie Mays rookie. Well, second year Willie Mays, 52 tops. So vintage is right there, and Eli Manning. Eli Manning, definitely. But I had a bit of a epiphany when we were recording earlier this week the Wolfpack episode. So it was you, it was me, and it was Tony from Cousins Collectibles. And if you guys haven't checked it out, if you guys don't subscribe, please go follow us wherever, whether if it's on podcast, if it's on YouTube, if it's on Instagram, it's the Wolfpack Network. So basically, we drop an episode of like random individuals, usually Tony and I. Ken was on this last week. Hopefully Ken's going to be joining us for some more. But anyways, we were talking and I was thinking, I think it might be time to move some of my lower end Eli Manning cards, because behind me you could see these 2-row slab boxes. I probably have 4 filled boxes of all graded Eli cards. That's off the top of my head, I want to say it's probably 250 to 300. It's a lot of Eli. And the thing is, a lot of them are just like, it's me hoarding Eli. A lot of them are, maybe some base rookies, or maybe, or, I don't know, a copper out of 249, like stuff like a blue out of 99, PSA graded stuff like that. I would move in order to get some of the bigger Eli cards, because there are some, I have some pretty nice Eli cards, right? But I'd consider them maybe like Swordfish or Marlin. There are some whales out there. I do not have the whales.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking like Superfractor 1-of-1s.
Yeah.
That go from anywhere from 1,000 to 20K.
Yeah.
Depending on who's holding the card, what their ransom is that they're asking, and everything. But I'm thinking like, if, and I have a lot of different player collectors graded cards. I have a lot of Shaq cards. A lot of Shaquille O'Neal, I never talk about that. I have a lot of Jeter, never talk about that. A lot of Don Mattingly, never talk about that. Like that, I just like, I buy up a lot of their stuff and I just hold it. So I'm thinking like, do I want to start maybe liquidating some of those things and going and start to go after the big pieces? And if I do, almost keep like separate envelopes in my pocket. Like if I move an Eli card, boom, put that $200 in the Eli envelope. If I move a $90 Don Mattingly card, boom, put that in the Mattingly envelope. And then based on those envelopes, when it's time to pull the trigger on one, that's my bankroll for that card kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking like, oh,
Rob,
you're
Rob,
smiling
Rob,
over there. What are
Rob,
you thinking?
Rob, I know you. Before you ever even find an envelope to write anything on it, you're going to buy the big card, and then you're going to say, "I got to sell all these 2 row slabs here just to cover." So I know you, but that's the way we are in the hobby. We get the idea, and then we start looking, and then it appears, right? The
I
holy
remember
grail.
I remember when we left the Laz. So we left we left the Laz show. I did like 40K in sales. And I'm like, you know what? We get in the car. We get in the car. We haven't even pulled out the parking lot yet. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna really try to take my time and make some wise choices with this card money. And you were like, get the hell out of here. That money's going to be, you're going to be, because you were driving, you're like, you're going to jump on your phone. That money's going to be spent by the time we get back to Connecticut. And I'm like, but when you have the money and you have like, I start making these mental notes along the way. Every time I see a card I like, whether if it's a $50 card or $1,000 card, I start taking these mental screenshots. I could hear like the click, like mental screenshot, click, mental screenshot. And then when the time or the opportunity comes where I feel like, you know what, I can justify making that big purchase, boom, I start scrolling through all my mental screenshots. And that's the beautiful thing about the eBay watch list, right? It's like, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it gets us in trouble though, right?
I know.
We go out, we pick things, and then they're there, and then we're like, oh, do we bid? Do we don't bid? One of the things, and we talked about, we also talked about this on the Wolfpack episode with Tony, was, like I was thinking, I have the Mike Tyson, that purple PMG, like maybe looking into that set, and I've seen a few of these cards come up, and the problem is they show up on eBay, and even like the Rory card that it was like $78, and it was a 7-day or a 6-day auction. It never even broke $100, right? And then it's an hour before it's up, and it goes straight to $1,000, and then 5 minutes before it goes right to 13, and then you're like, oh, okay, so I'm done. I mean, all of a sudden the card's selling for over, public auction is selling for over what it's valued at. So, if I'm going to do that, it can't be on eBay, and it can't be, favoriting things. I'm going to have to go out and put the legwork in and find this at shows, or find these on story sales, or people who are seriously want to, move these cards for what their current prices are. If they're, I mean, sometimes, and we talked about this today earlier, I mean, sometimes people, they just don't want to sell the card, even though the card prices come way down. They may just take that card and go put it in the closet and say, I'm just going to leave it there until the prices come back up. And if they never come back up, I'm just going to hold on to it. Right. And I understand that. I do that myself with some of my cards,
Well, and that's one of the best parts about going to shows. Like, I hope, regardless of what happens, regardless of what the hobby looks like 10, 15 years from now, I hope that shows continue to thrive. I hope that shows continue to be a, a resource for collectors, for dealers, for flippers, for sellers, whatever the case, because we can sit there and throw up our bids on any auction site, right? But it hits different when you're in person. When you're in person and you're dealing with someone, it's just a little different, because say that person that had that Rory McIlroy PMG, purple PMG, 2013 Upper Deck employee exclusive, say the person that had that sold that on eBay. For all we know, that thing was shilled, and for all we know, it didn't sell. And the seller is like, I just want to sell this thing. This is the second time in 6 months I tried selling this. Both times it's been shilled, or it wasn't paid for. I'm going to bring it to a show, and then you go to a show and you can really start to feel people out, because I think with the conversation from the last couple months around shill bidding, and there were certain personalities in the hobby that got caught shill bidding, that brought up the topic of like, if comps are being consistently or even somewhat consistently shilled, even if it's only 1% of the time, which we know it's not. I would venture to say that anywhere between 20 to 40% of every single auction that's out there is shilled, right? So if we know that, if we know shilling is going on and continuing to go on, then why are we holding comps as the be all end all, right? That should be one part of the equation for sure. That can be the starter of the conversation. That could absolutely be the starter, because for all we know, that McElroy that could have sold for 1,100, right? Maybe that sold for 1,100, but this guy, say there's another card out there, he could have that card and he's like, I've been trying to sell this thing, no one's buying it, no one ever offered me $1,100. I would put it up on eBay, but it's a risk. I'm going to see what I can get at a show. And then he comes across someone like you and it's like, you know what, yeah, I'll take 800 for it, no problem.
Yeah.
So it's about so much more than the comps, right?
Yeah.
It's about how motivated the dealer is, or how much they aren't motivated. And if they're high on it, it's about how motivated you are. You might go pay over the last comp for it because you want it bad enough, or you might be like, I really don't want it bad enough, but if the price is right, I'll get it.
Yeah.
So
And I
that's
may
why
say,
going to shows is so imperative.
yeah, I may say too, hey, I got a few of these cards here. Maybe you want to do some, cards and cash, trade and cash type of thing too, which would get people motivated too. So a lot, I say this all the time. A lot of great things happen at shows. I mean, it's so hard to buy online, even if you're on Facebook or you're on Instagram. If you don't know the people, I mean, you don't even know how they're feeling. And sometimes people will say, will message something, and you're going to accept it how you think in your head is how it comes out, but it may not be nothing like the person meant it when they said it. So it's difficult, I think, to really negotiate properly, unless you're in front of somebody at a show. And being a buyer too, on the other side of the table too, sometimes when you get that in your hand, you're like, I don't want to let it go. So if it's going to cost me we're talking about getting a better deal, right? But you may pay a little more. Just say, you know what, now that I've got this in my hand, like on eBay, I'm like, I'm not paying 1,100 for that card. But I may be at a show holding the card saying, you know what, I think I will pay 1,100 because I really want. So a lot of different things, a lot of different scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And there's something amazing. There's a rush that you get from negotiating in person, right? Whereas if I'm negotiating with you through Instagram DMs, this negotiation could take all day. Like literally, it could start in the morning and finally we come to the conclusion at nighttime. Like people can really, really take their time. That's why if you're going to a show and you're going there to make deals, you better know what you're doing. And I don't just mean how to look up the last comp.
Yeah.
You better know the trend of that card that you're buying. You better know that if it's the right time to buy that card or if it's the wrong time to buy that card. Because if it's, if it's August and you're looking to buy a Trevor Lawrence card, going by the last comp, you better understand that it's very, very likely that card's going to fall off a cliff.
Yeah,
it's probably going to be
a
down.
Jacksonville Jaguar fan and saying, I just want the card. I don't care where the price goes, right?
Absolutely.
But for most people, they're buying to flip it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, sounds like we might be going to Trumbull, Connecticut this Saturday.
Yep.
Sounds like we might be going to the Shriner show next Friday. That's up in Massachusetts.
Yep.
Sounds like I'm going to be set up with both cousins, Tony and Oz, in Secaucus, New Jersey, November 11th. Sounds like you are going to be set up at Foxborough, right?
Yeah, I'm setting up at Gillette, and I made
Gillette.
some executive decisions today. I'm setting up. I'm just going to set up Saturday at Gillette. So I had some Mohegan points that I cashed in to reserve a room for Saturday night. That Saturday night, so I'm going to drive up to Gillette. I'm going to do that show, and then I'm going to drive back to Mohegan, stay over there. I'm going to walk the Mohegan show on Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's it like to be Ken? What's it like to be Big Ken? Because
and then I'll even maybe be home to watch, by 4:30 to watch football. So get red zone on.
In the words of Tony from Cousins Collectibles, what does Ken have to do? He's retired. What does he have to do besides watch The Price is Right every morning?
Oh my God, man. So far from it. You come spend the day with me. You see how busy you call me and you hear what I'm doing.
Oh yeah. No, I tell you what, every time I call you from the car, you're in the car.
Yeah.
We're always in the car. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Rob, sports card therapist, Ken, sports card lessons. Great time as always. I'm sure we're gonna really what we try to do is every 2 weeks we try to jump on and have a collab episode. So regardless if I drop 1 or 2 for the week, and chances are we're going to have a collab episode. I know that I'm going to have the roundtables. I pretty much have all the roundtables all set up. I'm just finalizing the guests for all the roundtables. So that'll be coming up. I would imagine probably all December. So
nice. And that a full the roundtable month of December, a full month of roundtables.
Yeah,
nice.
Looking forward to that, man.
Nice.
Looking forward to that.
And I'm gonna steal it from you. I don't know if it's gonna be December, but I'm already planning out a few roundtables myself. So
let's go. Love it. All right, man. Well, everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. Those that are watching live, those that have been lighting up the comment box, and everyone that's listening through podcast, I appreciate you. Don't forget, take care of yourself and your collection.
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted me to finish that for you. And until next time, be good to yourselves and everyone around you. Take care, Rob.
Thanks, man.